full-size IPSC 1375. Impact. Off that left edge. Alrighty, are you a fan of the big boomers and curious how 338 Lapua stacks up to 50 BMG at long distance? Well, then stick around because this video is for you. We're gonna push both of these calibers over a mile and show you the results. So let's get into it. I know you've heard folks say 338 Lapua Magnum is capable of replacing 50 BMG in certain long-range applications. They'll promise lower recoil, lighter weight rifle, less cost to shoot. But when you put these two cartridges side by side, you gotta ask yourself, how is that possible? How can a 300 grain bullet out of a 338 Lapua Magnum come close to matching what a 700 plus grain bullet out of a 50 BMG is doing downrange? Well, if you want to see exactly how these two calibers stack up on the same day, same range, same conditions, then stick around because this video is for you. We're going to run them both side by side over a mile. Now, before we go further, I've got to ask for your help. Help me grow this channel, and that is through subscribing. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. That's going to signal to me you want to see more content. It lets the industry know you value my content, and it's extremely encouraging. Now, really quick, let's talk about the gear we're going to run in this video. Now, the 338 Lapua that we're going to be running here is going to be my Barrett MRAD with a 26-inch 338 Lapua Magnum barrel in it. This barrel has several hundred rounds. This is actually the barrel that came in this rifle, and it shoots really, really well. On top, we have an Element Theos 6-36 mil rifle scope. This was sent to me by Utah Air Guns. Very clear image, beautiful reticle. It's going to work well to run this rifle out to distance. It's going to be sitting in a Griffin single piece mount. Now the 338 Lapua, we're going to be running Desert Tech factory load. So this is going to be the Desert Tech 300 grain SMK factory load. This was provided by Desert Tech. Appreciate them supporting me with the ammunition for this video. So that's going to be the 338 Lapua. If you're familiar with 338 Lapua, you know 300 grain is on the heavy side of bullets for the caliber, but it should allow us to make impacts well beyond a mile. Now for the 50 BMG, this video wouldn't be possible without the help of HM Defense. They sent out this HM50B2 Gen 2. So as you can see, this is a bolt action, precision oriented 50 BMG. It's magazine fed, it holds 10 rounds, left hand bolt, right hand eject. I've got a previous video where I kind of gave you my initial impressions on this rifle, and what I find is it shoots well. It seems to be a 1 to a 1.5 MOA shooter with a 750 AMAX load. So factory rifle here, very, very nice. Enjoy shooting. It's about 30 pounds. It has about a 29.5-inch barrel, 1 15-inch twist. Very nice, clean trigger, so I'm going to be able to shoot this as accurately as possible. Now on top, I'm going to be running the Arken 7-35 EP5 Gen 2. This was provided by Arken, and it is in a single piece mount. It's got a diving board there. If you do find yourself interested in picking up an Arken optic, make sure you use my code MULLETS. That'll get you the best discount possible at the time of purchase, and it'll give me a small kickback that I can use to continue growing this channel. Now, the Arken to me is a nice fit for the 50 BMG for a couple reasons. Number one, it has a very nice mill reticle, Christmas tree. It's nice and clean so that I can hold, just like the Theos. But you're getting a 35 power optic at a great price point. So the 50 is not something I'm going to be putting a ton of rounds through and shooting frequently. So I don't want to tie up an extremely expensive optic on the 50. So that's why I have the Arken on it, and I feel like it makes sense for that application. So thank you to Arken for the optic setup here. This package, man, this thing is super fun to shoot. And as you're going to see, it's an absolute hammer downrange. I'm going to be using, this is the Send It level. I think it's MDT now, but that's going to be an electronic level on both rifles to make sure I'm not canted when I squeeze the trigger on those long range shots. Now the ammo we're going to be running through the HM50 was also provided by HM Defense. And this is going to be the Hornady 750 AMAX factory load. I tell you what, I've shot about 80 rounds of this now in total. This is pretty solid ammunition. The velocity consistency is really, really impressive. So factory load here from Hornady. This rifle, you have to use kind of a match-oriented load. HM Defense provides those details, and this is one of those loads that runs really well through this rifle. So factory ammunition here, shooting beautifully. Now this rifle has a bit of recoil. Even though it's 30 pounds, it's got a beautiful muzzle brake, it does push into my shoulder. That means I can't run the camera or else I'll scope myself. So when I run the 50, you're gonna be seeing what I see, but you're gonna be looking through my Vectronix Vectronix laser rangefinders. So these rangefinders actually have the ability to run a magnification extender. So this right now would be 17x in this right-hand eye. When I remove this, you're down to 12 power, and it has a reticle in it. So when I shoot the 50 at 1100 and 1375, you're gonna be looking at 12 power. And then when I go out beyond a mile, I'm gonna put the extender in, and you're gonna be looking at 17 power downrange. So that's gonna be the setup we run. Now the plan for the video will be to give you a look at 100-yard performance and then move out and engage steel starting at about 1100 yards beyond a mile. Then we'll wrap up here at the end of the video. I'll give you my thoughts. Let's kick things off with a 5-round group out of each rifle from the 100-yard line to give you a look at accuracy potential, velocity performance, and our zero. So first up, I fired 5 rounds out of the HM Defense 50 here on the center paper. Now, there was a black aiming dot right in the center of those 4 rounds, but I blew that out in the 4 rounds here. So the first 4 rounds out of the 5-round group were here, probably a nice 1 MOA. I lost my aiming point, and then my 5th round flew a little bit high. I feel like I was centered up in this group when I cracked this round, but again, I didn't have a clear aiming point. Ultimately, the 5 rounds are 1.5 MOA. So in my opinion, that's solid accuracy for a 50. Sure, I'd like to see a little bit better, and these 4 rounds indicate it's very likely it's possible to do that. Now, velocity performance out of that Hornady 750 AMAX load, average speed of 2644. Extreme spread of 18 and an SD of 6.2, which is really, really good. So a nice tight spread like this is really gonna help us push that rifle out to distance. It's gonna be more consistent for velocity and elevation as we get out to those extreme distances, and you're gonna see that in this video. Zero-wise, I made no change given we pretty much blew out our aiming point. I then transitioned up to the top dot and fired 5 rounds of the Desert Tech 300 SMK load out of the MRAD. And as you can see, those 5 rounds went into a beautiful group at 0.5 MOA. So really solid accuracy with that 300 SMK. Now velocity performance out of that Desert Tech ammo, a little bit slow at 2602. I feel like you might normally see a 300 SMK running out of a 26-inch barrel pushing 2,700 feet per second, but 2602 will get the job done. Velocity performance, we have a spread of 47 across 5 rounds and a SD of 16.4. That's a little bit larger than I would like to see in an ELR load, but ultimately it'll work out to distance and you'll see how it performs. It's actually really interesting what we have going on here. We have a nice tight group with a little bit more velocity spread, a little bit bigger group with much tighter spread. You gotta let me know in the comments down below, which one of these would you rather have when you push your rifle out to distance? So keep that in mind as we shoot both of these out to 1,000 yards and beyond. I did move the zero on this rifle up 2/10 before we shot out to distance. Now there are 3 more rounds on paper here at the bottom. I fired these later on in the video out of the HM50 just to confirm nothing had shifted overnight. And those went into a nice 3-round group at 1.05 MOA. Again, these were shot later than these, and it was just to confirm my data. So with that, now let's push out and engage some steel with both rifles. I'm gonna start with a 338 Lapua. It's just a little bit lighter recoil. So I figured I would shoot it first and then transition to the 50. Now we had to wait out a rain shower, which is gonna make it hard to spot our impacts, but let's see where we're at here. Full-size IPSC out there. And the Vectronix range those at 1105, and I call for 9.4 mils of elevation, which I'll dial on. So I've updated the Vectronix with the information we got there at the 100-yard line, so 2,600 feet per second. And 9.4 is what she calls for. Windage wise, it's basically dead calm, so why don't we just send this first round straight up on it. Okay, so just off that right edge, let's cheat. I'm gonna come up a 1/10, 9.5, and let's cheat left. Just a couple 10ths here. Impact. Impact. scoping myself with the camera. Impact. We'll do one more. Go off the left edge. I got one. Impact. So there we are, 1,100 yards is 9.5 mils. Let's run some rounds out of the 50 on that same full-size IPSC at 1105. Now, I can't run the scope mate on this because it would scope me in the eye. The 338's already touching me. So this one, we've got the second camera looking through the spotter so you can see trace. Now this one using AB Quantum, it's calling for 8.4 mils of elevation, which I'll dial on there. And I'm just gonna hold straight up. It feels super calm. So here we go, let's back the magnification out a bit. Full size IPSC, straight up hold. Okay, landed just off the right edge. Come up a tenth. I'm gonna come left, 0.3. Okay, just off the left edge. All right, so left edge of target, not off plate. Impact. Ooh. That one's kind of hard to extract. Here we go. Impact. One more. Impact dead center. All right, so 8.5 mils it is to 1105. Let's try a little bit further with the MRAD. I got to apologize, at the 1,100 yard line I forgot to turn on the second camera, but we should be good now. Let's go ahead and use the Vectronix here to get a range on that plate. 1373 is calling for 13.5 mils of elevation, which I'll dial on. And our impacts at 1100 were pretty much straight up, no wind, so let's just start there. Man, it is humid out here. Okay, I believe that was off the left edge. So let's cheat right. Ooh, you can see the rain. Let's come down 2/10. Actually 3. Those did look a little bit high. Impact. Off that left edge. 0.5 right. Impact. Need to get the bipod down. There we go. 0.5 right. Impact. One more. I can see that kind of on that right edge. Impact. Okay, so 13.2 mils to 1375. Here we go on the 50 at 1,375 yards. Now, those of you paying attention will notice that the environment and the weather is very different. This is actually the second time that I've run the 50 at this yard line. I got rained out last night. Results weren't great because the rain that was coming down. I also bumped my elevation turret, so I was up a mil kind of unexpectedly. So we're just gonna reshoot it this morning. Conditions are very, very calm, but exact same firing position. So I'm gonna go ahead and dial up 11.4 mils, which is what the Vectronix calls for there. I went ahead and ranged that target, and we'll dial that up. Windage wise, man, I'm tempted just to go straight up on that and see where we land. Here we go. So this is going to be a cold bore 1,375 yard shot. And I tell you what, the Vectronix actually called for 0.4 left. I'm just going to favor left edge of plate. Oh, right off the left edge. Here we go. We will hold straight up. Okay, so that landed about 2/10 low. I actually just dialed up. So we're at 11.8. Now let's go down to 11.7. There we go. Come up 0.5. Pack. I'm not sure, that might have been a T-top hit. There we are at 12.2 mils to 1375. Alrighty, now let's get crazy with it. I've moved back. I have a 24-inch circle from Echo Gong out there. Shout out to them for sending me that 1/4-inch steel to allow me to hike it up the side of that mountain out there. Probably not rated for 50, but it's gonna work because it's a light target that I can carry up the hill. Now, results at 1375 were interesting because I felt like there was an elevation shift that happened in there where I had to dial up 0.5 to make my impacts. I did run back up to the 100-yard line just to check to make sure nothing was weird. I fired 3 rounds and they were pretty much in the ballpark of where they should be. So I truly think maybe my elevation at 1375 was 12.2. Now with that, we're here at 1,905 yards. The Vectronix are having a little bit of trouble actually ranging that target. I did get 1 return at 1902 and 1 at 1910. So I've put 1905 into the AB Quantum app, and it calls for dialing up 20.2 mils, which I've done. And now we'll just see if we can connect on that target. So that's a less than 1.5 MOA target out there. Turn on my level. Little bit of a left to right. I'm going to start left. 1 mil. Okay, just off the left edge of the plate. Elevation actually looked pretty close. Okay, I'm going to go 0.5 left. Impact with the second round. 1,900 yards. That is sick. Okay, that one landed about 3/10 low. Felt like a good squeeze. I'm guessing the velocity might have just run slow. Okay, that also landed low. It's come up 2/10. Whoa, way high. Felt like a good shot. Okay, same hold. Impact. Ah, that's a little bit left. Cut a little bit of wind out of it here. Dropped a little bit low. All right. So that is 2 impacts out of 8 rounds at 1,900 yards. 20.2 to 20.4 mils. Now let's try the MRAD. That is fun. Here we go with the MRAD, 1,905 yards. AB Quantum calls for 23.6 mils. So in this Theos, I'm only able to dial 23.1 or 0.2 before it tops out. So I've dialed 23.1, now I'm gonna have to hold 0.5 in the reticle. Same target, 24-inch circle from Echo Gong. Oh, we should load up. And we will start left, 0.5. Let me zoom in a bit there. 0.5 left, 0.5 up. There's a handy dot there. Okay, so that landed up there about 2/10 high. I think I brought the wrong magazine here for this rifle. So we'll have to work through some of this feeding here. Yeah, the MRAD has like 3 different magazines and I just brought the wrong one for Lapua. So I'm going to come down 1/10 and then hold right on the line there. So 23 mils, left 0.4. Okay, no call. Let's go same hold. I'm gonna go left 0.6. Let's cheat back up a couple tenths. There we go. Okay. Man, I got nothing. Cheat up some more. This is kind of back to where we were. Okay. Dang, boys. We'll send a couple more. We're in the ballpark. I'm just gonna single feed them. Okay, just over it. There's an impact for you. Impact. I believe that's an impact. 3 in a row at 1910. Impact, holy cow, guys. Okay, so we are at 23.5 mils of elevation to 1910. That is super cool. Let's wrap up. Well, there you have it. A side-by-side look at the 338 Lapua Magnum and a 50 BMG out to 1900 yards. I cannot wait to hear in the comments down below how you felt like these 2 calibers matched up. Now, while you're doing that, let me chat about my experience running both of these. So at the 100-yard line, we saw what I felt like was great performance out of each rifle. The MRAD here laid down a 0.5 MOA group using that Desert Tech ammunition, but velocity spread was a little bit large, something like 47 feet with an SD of 16. Ultimately though, what we saw downrange is that load shot beautifully. So the accuracy was really solid and it held that out to distance. The HM50, you saw me lay down a 5-round group on camera at 1.5 MOA. Now that 5th round popped out of the group. It's possible when I blew out that aiming point, maybe that had something to do with it, but we'll call it 1.5 MOA. And for a 50, I feel like that's pretty solid, especially given the reputation that 50 has for precision. So I'm happy with that. The most impressive though at the 100-yard line was the velocity consistency out of that Hornady load. An SD of 6, extreme spread of 18 is really, really awesome for factory ammunition. So 100-yard wise, when it comes to accuracy, sure, the MRAD and the 338 Lapua had the advantage. Was that because it's easier for me to shoot it? Or maybe I blew the aiming point out of the 50? I'm not sure, but the data's the data. From there, we pushed out and engaged steel at 1,100 yards. And this was fun. At this point, it was last night, we had some rain coming down, conditions were pretty nasty, but at 1,100 yards on a full-size Zipzik, they both hammered. This though, is where I started to notice a difference. So there at 1,100 yards, if I remember correctly, the 338 Lapua was something like 9.4 mils of elevation, while the 50 was something like 8.5 mils. So roughly a 1 mil advantage to 1,100 yards of the 50. Now shooting experience, what I noticed, there's not a ton of flight time there. So to control the recoil of the 50, you've really got to be driving that rifle to crack the shot and then get it back onto target to spot your impact. I was able to do that, but if you're lazy in your position, there's no forgiveness. The 338, however, while it's heavy recoiling, compared to the 50, it's almost nothing actually, which is funny. It was much easier for me to stay on target and spot what was going on. The 1,100-yard line though, holy cow, the 50 hammered that plate. We pushed out to 1375. We ran into a little bit of trouble there at 1375 with the weather. So I shot 1375 last night with the MRAD. And what I saw there, 13.2 mils of elevation, and we hammered the full-size Zipzik. Once I spotted my impacts, made my correction there, not a ton of wind, but we had some rain coming down. We hit that plate and we hammered it. A lot of energy, you could see that plate move. I could see my impacts when they missed, really no problem. The 50, I shot last night in the rain, but I had a little bit of trouble in the rain. Conditions were really bad, so I fired a couple of rounds, and then I had one round that was a little bit hard to extract, so I reached over the top of the rifle to extract it, and when I did, I twisted my elevation turret, didn't realize it, sent 3 rounds way high, and at that point kind of got frustrated with the rain and the elevation, and I called it. This morning at 1375, with the 50 BMG, we got a couple of impacts out there. Now something interesting, my first round went out at 11.7 mils. Seemed to be good elevation, but then I noticed those rounds started to drop low. So I had to come up to 12.2, and that's when I connected on the plate with 2 rounds. My hit percent wasn't as high as I'd hoped at 1375 with the 50, but I do believe 12.2 mils was accurate. So again, a 1 mil advantage to 1375 for the 50, a little bit flatter shooting, and again, the energy on that plate is just absolute nuts. A little bit more flight time there, but I still had to really drive that rifle to be able to see my impacts. Then we moved out to 1,900 yards, which was nuts actually, and both rifles performed way better than I expected. So in my opinion, neither one of these rifles are truly designed to shoot 1,900 yards on a 24-inch circle. That's less than a 1.5 MOA plate. 300 grains out of 338 Lapua, probably not the best bullet for it. There's better bullets, more velocity, higher BC. But that 300 grain SMK got the job done. Now what I noticed at 1,900 yards, when I missed, the ground was wet, it was hard to see those misses. If they went into the mud and didn't splash a rock and kick up dust, that was hard. So I believe we went 8 to 9 rounds out of the gate, no impacts, and I saw very few misses. It was pretty difficult. Once I got it dialed in though, I caught an impact, I got over there onto the plate at 23.5 mils. I believe we went 4 in a row. No windage, actually straight up hold. You saw that through the camera, which was nuts. So while we're pushing the boundaries on a 338 Lapua with that 300 SMK, we connected 4 times in a row on a plate smaller than 1.5 MOA. That's amazing. Shooting experience on this rifle, it was not hard to stay on target. It's not hard to drive this rifle when you have a nice prone position behind it. Flight time out there is quite long. You have plenty of time to get back on that plate, position it in your reticle to spot where the impact is going to go. The 50 out there at 1,900, epic. So the 50, if I remember correctly, was 20.5 mils of elevation. So roughly a 3 mil advantage now out to 1900 yards with the 50. What I noticed out there at 1900, when I missed, I could see it. It splashed up a ton of dirt. We went 2 for 8, so 25%, which is pretty solid. Probably actually higher than the 338, just because it took me so long to figure out where the 338 was at to get onto the plate. So 2 for 8 on a plate smaller than 1.5 MOA with the 50. Now, what I noticed as the shooter, when that 50 hits that plate, 1900 yards, it rocked it. It moved it. There was no question that I'd hit that plate. The 338, a couple of times, I was on the plate and it just barely moved. So energy on target, the 50 is absolutely hammering. It shows up on the plate, it showed up in the dirt. It was easier for me to correct with the 50 to get on the plate. Now with the longer flight time out there at 1900 yards, driving the 50 was a little bit easier because I had more time as the shooter to get back onto the plate. The first round with the 50, actually, unfortunately, you couldn't see it. When I recoiled, the plate went totally out of the scope. So I had to swing it back over. I was still able to catch that actually just because I was driving it. But like the 338, the plate really never leaves the scope if you're driving it properly. So when it comes down to shooting, yeah, the 338 Lapua is easier to shoot. It's less fatiguing. The 50, you have to drive it a little bit harder, but out at distance, you're gonna get more splash. And if you're shooting maybe with a spotter, man, he's gonna get a ton of splash out there to give you a correction. Now, the premise of the video, does 338 Lapua replace 50 BMG? In my opinion, no, it doesn't. The 338 Lapua is a great caliber, a 338 Norma, really any of the 338 caliber bullets. They're great, they're nice and heavy at 300 grains or 250 plus grains. You can put specialty bullets in them. You can put a lot of energy downrange, but man, if you just want to absolutely demolish a target, a vehicle, a steel plate, 50 BMG, it's gonna do it. There's no question it's gonna outperform 338 Lapua. Now with that, yeah, 338 Lapua, like I said, easier to shoot. Yeah, this rifle's a little bit lighter. I can pick this one up one-handed like this. The 50 is a little bit more challenging. The 50, say to carry this thing, you have to break it in half versus the MRAD, I can fold the stock. So sure, maneuverability in something like a 338 is definitely a little bit easier. So if you need a compromise, yeah, that's where something like this I think would make sense. But to come out of the gate and say, oh, 338, you know, Lapua 338 Norma is capable of replacing and doing the same job as a 50, I don't believe so. We saw the 50 put way more energy downrange. We saw the 50 shoot flatter. These are all the things that a 50 is known for, and a 338 is just not going to hold up to that. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know this one's maybe a little bit shorter than what I've been doing. I'm trying to pack more energy and action into these videos. Let me know what you think about the content and the format of this video. I'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed this, like I say, do me a solid, like this video, comment. I'd love to engage with you down below, and make sure you're subscribed so you're in line for my next video drop. Thanks for watching.